Somfy as reserve. And the bearded Nikita Glazkov, Pavel Sukov, Sergei Krodos, and Anton Glebko is down as reserve. Referees Olivier Baston, Andre Korovici, Ombe Siviero, and Amgad Badwi. So time for the match to get underway. And David, you watched that match between Hungary and Switzerland, and they lost that, and they had the lead. Redley in there in that final leg against Heinze.
Well, you know, Redley picked up the bronze medal in the individual event. That's a very, very talented Hungarian team. They went into the 9th leg up by 6, 11-5 over Switzerland. 43 points were scored in the 9th leg, 26 of them from Max Heinzer. And Heinzer, you know, Heinzer is Heinzer. He is a force of nature. He is totally unique, and some people love him and some people don't. But what he pulled off there was absolutely astonishing. And 43 points in 3 minutes of fencing time is not small. Redley, he was fit to be tied during that, because Heinze was flinging himself all over the floor and all sorts of histrionics and acrobatics, and he will need to have calmed himself down significantly going into this match against Russia. It's Redley up first, followed by Banyai and Siklosi. And for Russia, it will be Kadosh, Sukov, and Glazkov to open. But, you know, Russia had a tough loss against France, but that was always going to be heavily weighted in France's direction. Russia fenced well. Emotionally, for Hungary, that Switzerland match must weigh on them pretty heavily. But it doesn't matter. They're both here under the same circumstances.
Well, in the quarterfinals, Hungary went up against Estonia, and in the last leg, it was a similar matchup to the individuals. It was Novoshelov for Estonia and Redley for Hungary. And Redley had the lead, and it was a role reversal of what happened in that individual match, where Novoshelov developed a lead and Redley had to chase and ended up losing. Well, this time Redley came in with a lead and Novoshelov had to chase, and it was Redley that was able to see the match through. So I think in this, we're going to see non-combativity perhaps used. What are your thoughts, David? Who's gonna play the non-com card first?
Well, certainly non-combativity was a factor in the Hungary-Switzerland match. Not so much so in Russia-France.
So just to explain to anyone who's new to fencing, how does that all work? I mean, surely well, they should be trying to fence each other.
You're expected to come out and fence, to try and score hits, and engage in combat, if you will. And it is simply a fact of life that in épée, it's a tactical tool that teams use, that individuals use in épée to try and at an individual level, it's simply a matter of trying to get to the end of the match, especially with the scores tied or very close. In a team match, it is more of a tactical weapon to try and control points at which you may be at higher risk. But we have no non-combativity here. And the Russians look like they're perfectly happy to keep this going the way it is. But whenever we get into a discussion about non-combativity, and whenever it happens in big matches, there is always a heated debate that results.
Yeah, it's used as a tactic, probably slightly more in the team events,
Yes,
isn't
yes,
it?
absolutely.
Because you're trying to get rid of, negate a good fencer and just defend, defend, defend. Don't put an attack in, and unless invite him on to attack you. And if he doesn't do that within a minute, the referee will call non-combativity.
But there's no specific rule that it is 1 minute, but the general guidance to referees is that if nothing's happening after a minute, then you just roll on through. Kodosh with the flesh attack readily picked up the blade, but as he deflected it away, Kodos was able to flick back onto his upper thigh and get the hit.
Yeah, you've got to be within a certain time as well in épée, otherwise it's timed out. How many hundredths of a second is it, David?
Oh, don't ask me that. Not now.
It's not many. So it's kind of got to be simultaneous, the hit. You know, we're talking quarter of a second.
And that's our first double in this match. Bradley just drifting too far into distance there, and Kodosh with the flick across the guard.
And Redley's on first and he's on last for Hungary. And Pavel Sukhov is the anchor for Russia. Of course, the draw is done in secret, isn't it, David?
Well, it's a little bit like a game of Battleship. You know, you do your lineup, your opponent does theirs, and then you get to see what the draw is. And so in any situation, you're going to have one fencer who may be stronger than another fencer, and those are opportunities for one side that will reverse themselves later in the match. And, you know, it's a game.
Unless, of course, you use a tactical substitution and you think, okay, this fencer's going to be weak against that fencer, so I'm going to sub in someone else. And then, like we saw with the French in the women's team saber, you then sub them back out again.
Well, sometimes those work and sometimes those don't, but you do have the option to reverse that substitution.
So when you're coming to pick your team and put them into position, you're given kind of two choices, aren't you? Whether you're the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the draw, if you like.
Well, you're on one side or the other, but you're looking at your team in terms of, you know, it's Kodosh that opens for Russia and Sukhov that closes for Russia, but it is Redley doing both for Hungary. So you're looking at where your strengths are and where you want to position those strengths in how you anticipate the match to go forward.
So it's looking very good for Russia right now.
And we'll have our first non-combativity call right here. Banyai ships 2 points, and fails to score and says, you know, let's end this now before it gets any worse.
I mean, Glazkov didn't have to say yes to that. He could have kept going.
Well, he's perfectly happy to walk off the piste with a 5-point lead for Russia. There's Glazkov coming on now to face Siklosi.
I'm not sure we'll see that so much from the French team who are coming out to fight for the gold medal match with the likes of Yannick Burrell. I think
well, the Swiss,
if they get a lead, they're going to try and extend the lead. The Swiss might try, but it's not. It's up to you.
The Swiss are extremely tactical when it comes to épée team events, and they throw all sorts of things into the mix. And in the middle of that, you've got Max Heinzer, who is an extremely colorful and disruptive character. The Swiss know how to play.
Something to look forward to.
They know how to play the game.
Something to look forward to in the final.
But Kodos, Glazkov, and Sukov are all very solid fencers across the board. But Siklosi, for example, is, I believe he's just come out of the juniors. And so this is a young and rebuilding team for Hungary. You know, our 2015, our last World Championships before this one, you know, that was a team with Gabor Botchko and Geza Imre, who became the world champion in 2015, and a strong, older, mature team that, as we start a new Olympic cycle, is, you know, Hungary's going to take their new talent and rebuild it, and you know, and Redley is, you know, a foundation stone for that team.
Good example of that last hit there of the timing, because Glazkov did land, but his point, it was timed out, so he couldn't score a double because it was just a little bit too slow. Brilliant tap to the foot. The whole body is the target in épée. And 3-9 the score. And I get the feeling that the Russians' tactic is just now maybe to come on, score a couple of points, and then offer the Hungarians non-combativity.
Well, that is an offer that might have been well accepted in the second leg when the lead was 5. But if it gets any bigger, then Hungary is not going to be in a position
but they may
just walk off the piste.
But they may have to leave it to Redley.
Well, I'm afraid they're going to have to leave it to Redley based on what we're seeing so far. And that might even not matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Siklosi might just back away now and offer Glazkov the 2 points that he has taken. Will they keep going? Yes, they will. Well, Siklosi doesn't want to slip any more.
No, he doesn't want to.
But he's going to.
But this is already, we're not out of the third leg yet, and this is already looking pretty grim for Hungary.
Well, if you were watching the women's Team Sabre bronze medal match, you saw how France were able to pull back a big deficit. That's possible in Sabre. Very, very hard in épée because of the doubling rule, because that you can both score points from a hit. Oh, and Siklosi is...
Well, he's taking a beating here.
He is really taking a beating.
But, you know, as we said, Kodos, Sukov, Glazkov are all very solid fencers.
And they've got the lead now, so they don't really need to press. They'll just wait for Siklosi to come forward. Glazkov is pressing now. but he's not going to take any risk. Look, he just backs away, pressing, backing away. Inviting Ciclosi back onto him. Right, that was that. And Ciclosi, well, he took such a beating that he didn't want to take any more risks, slip any more points. And, well, we're out of the first third, and it's been one-way traffic, hasn't it, David?
That is one way to put it. Hungary has not arrived yet for this match, and I don't know that, you know, that there is anything that they're going to be able to do against these three very strong Russians to bring this back. It's Banyai coming back on for Hungary. And that period was curtailed by non-combativity, so he has yet to score. And he's facing Koros, who is a much bigger fencer than he is. So he's either going to have to find a way to work his way inside. That's good. Get to the foot. Koros not sure that that was a valid hit. Let's look at the replay here. Well, we don't get that on the replay. So we'll have to rely on the no hit given. The pistes are grounded, they are earthed. So I should not be picking hits up off of the piste surface, but if there is something on the piste.
Like a foot.
Well, apparently, although we couldn't see from the replay, it did not hit his foot, and that registered on something on the piste.
Well, Kodos continues the Russian tactic, score an early point, and then just let the Hungarians come on.
Well, he has got a very big reach and height advantage over Banyai. Banyai, as a smaller fencer, has got to find his way inside.
The physicalities of fencing, you do tend to get very tall épée fencers, don't you? But they don't have to be tall. I mean, it is possible to fence great épée with not be a giant.
Plenty of very successful small fencers. Heinzer does pretty well.
Pizzo.
I believe Pizzo. I wouldn't say he's small. But
he crouches down so low. He's like
is it Fiammingo of Italy, who is former world champion, is very successful.
But reach is important in épée, and perhaps not necessarily the same speed that you need for saber.
Well, where you need speed is being able to use it in an explosive way like that.
So 16-5 the score. It just keeps getting worse and worse for Hungary. Is it too early to rule them off completely? Write them out of this?
Well, it's a bronze medal match, and it would be impolite of us to suggest that this match is completely over, because this is a Hungarian team, and they could very well fight their way back into it. But they've got a big brick wall right in front of them at the moment, and that is a very solid and very consistent Russian side.
Distance. Prêt. Allez. Rien. Après le.
Nothing given.
The referee just called halt.
Distance. Prêt. Allez.
So a minute left on the clock in this fourth period.
And yeah, trying to get inside. Koto's picking up that attack and turning it, but he can't find the target himself, so nothing there.
Nice from Bagnaud.
Lovely turn there. Let's see if we get the replay. Picks up the blade of Kotos and then able to turn and to get him right in the chest.
So I don't think, do you think we'll see non-combativity offered by the Hungarians anymore now that they're 11 points down? Are they all going to have to come out and try and fence?
Oh, well, they have no choice. Those points are not going to magic themselves onto the board, but Bagnaud doing a really good job here, putting himself in a position not to give up any in the fourth here.
Backing away now, Bagnaud.
Time's running out.
And with just a few seconds left on the clock, they do back away, and the referee will signal that we move out of the fourth with a 10-point deficit.
Probably the best news that Hungary's had in some time is that was only a 4-point net loss for, a 1-point net loss in the fourth for Bagnaud. All of the Hungarian fencers are on a negative indicator, and that could have been worse. I suppose that's the most positive way you can look at it if you're on the Hungarian side. Russia is looking just solid as a rock. Now, Redley coming back on, and he's got some work to do against Nikita Glazkov.
So the fencers just come on, they just test their weapons. And it's different in épée, isn't it, David? They're testing to see if the guards and the swords are earthed.
Well, they're testing on the guard. If you touch an épée to any surface that is not earthed, that is not grounded, then it will bring up a light. In foil or saber, in the weapons of convention, you have scoring jackets, lames called, that conduct the signal to the scoring system.
And it's important that your épée is working properly, or otherwise your opponent will score a hit off your guard. So it's you kind of you don't want to see a light when your opponent hits your guard.
Big hill for Andres Redley to climb here, but he's gotten a couple of steps in that direction.
Well, one step, 2-1, the individual scoring. That's, those of you new to fencing, that's what the two scores mean. 18-9 is the team score. And in this, the fifth leg, Redley's 2-1 up make that 3-2 up, because that's a double. We talked about non-combativity earlier and the rule, and someone's actually sent me the rule. And it says when both fencers make clear their unwillingness to fight, the referee will call immediately halt and roll it on. There's one criteria, which is time, approximately 1 minute without fencing a hit. And the other is excessive distance. Greater distance than a step forward lunge during at least 15 seconds.
Yeah, that is not a firm rule that it's 1 minute, but the referees have guidance that if nothing's happening after that amount of time, it becomes clear that that is a clear indicator. And we will see circumstances where miraculously fencers will launch an attack, sometimes simultaneously, when about 59 seconds have passed.
So Redley, 4-3 up, or just attack from too far out?
Yes, he attacked from too far out. Glasgow took a step back. And just caught him on the arm and stepping out of the way. I mean, here it is Redley who's got a slight height and reach advantage over Glasgow. He goes for a hit to the foot, and it makes that work.
Yeah, using that reach advantage there. Got to be careful that you don't get tagged on the back when you go down. That's in the lower line.
The risk. But he sets that up with a feint to the high line and then drops down. And there, with a lovely flush attack, he closes the distance. Gets in close enough where it's harder for Glasgow to defend.
And Glasgow does defend, though. Gets the light on. Five all. So 10 points the difference.
Redley just, he lost the plot there, just stepped in too close.
So 7-5 now. Glasgow is winning this one.
Well, Andrews Redley had one job, and that was to come out and stop the rot.
Well, he did that for a bit. So why is he attacking from so far out?
Well, he has to press, he has to push, but you know, we're back where we started, and that is Hungary shipping 2-3 points every leg, and in the end, it was Glasgow, you know, who resumed normal service, and as Sukov and Siklosi come on, I look for Russia to really start kicking this open.
So 25-13. And in épée particularly, when a lead is so important, it's not looking great for Hungary.
Possibly even less than great. A nice conversation of the blades, and Siklosi getting the hit. Siklosi's come out, pace up. Well, for all that work, it's just not paying off. Sukov able to block it out, get the hit. Siklosi came out with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy, but Sukov is just shutting him down. And I would not be surprised to see this one curtailed. Perhaps not. No, Siklosi's going to go after it.
Well, they've got to now because they're so far down that they've all got to come out and fence.
Double. And that'll do it.
So target score of 30 reached. That the leg with Redley Glazkov, that high-scoring leg, brought us close up to the target score again, and it is Csomba Bányai comes on for Hungary. Won a silver medal at the World Junior Championships in 2015, and then repeated that with a bronze medal in Bourges in 2016 at the Junior Worlds. 20 years old, and he's up against Nikita Glazkov of Russia.
Well, as it stands right now, as we go into the final three legs, Redley on a -5 indicator, Bányai on a -5 indicator, and Siklosi on a -6. And it will take some kind of magic, some kind of miracle for this to be reversed.
Yeah, it's been one-way traffic all the way through. And it's just been a slow, tortuous defeat, really. There's not been one great big loss. It's just been a couple of points here, a couple of points there, every leg, couple of points. And
I think in a medical setting, it might be referred to as bleeding profusely.
yeah, the Hungarians are bleeding out. And if you look at their box, they're kind of resigned to it.
Halt had been called, so no hit given there.
Distance. Prêt. Allez.
Double. Look, they're Hungarian. They're not going to stop fighting. And, they will, if they come out of this with a loss, they will pick themselves back up and get ready for next season. It's a young team. Another double.
Well, we had hope for a closer match than this. But the fact that the Russians got into a lead has meant that the Hungarians have had to press, and the Russians are just so good at picking them off.
Well, it was the first three legs where this match was, if we have to say, lost for Hungary. And they simply came out and weren't able to get anything on the board, weren't able to get any traction, weren't able to put themselves in any position to keep it close, to be tactical. And you're asking these three Hungarians to go out and chase points from the beginning. And, that's not a very good position to be in. Well, Banyai got his arm out, drew the attack from Glasgow.
And Banyai at 7-3
and then
up.
left it out there.
Yeah, Banyai at 7-3 up is guaranteed one thing, and that he will come out of this leg, seventh leg, with a positive indicator, even if Glasgow scores the next 2 points. And Banyai, he's a good young fencer. This is great experience for him. And Glasgow has decided that he's going to
tie his shoe.
Yes. Just pulling his socks up. Literally.
He's not the only one who needs to pull his socks up.
Literally, and perhaps metaphorically, because 8-3 is the individual score. Glasgow needs a couple more to bring it to the target score.
Well, this is the only leg here in the seventh where Russia has trailed in the match, in the individual match.
Yep.
Now that we've dug the hole, watch Hungary come completely back to life, storm back.
Well, they'd have to really up their scoring. And the difficulty in épée is that you can double out.
Glazkov steps in a low line and then comes up and it gets the hit.
And I think when Glazkov was pulling his sock up, he mentally pulled his socks up and just thought, you know what, I'm going to attack. If I can get to 35, then this is over. Slipped 3 points. The Russians still have a 10-point lead.
Lovely there from Jean-Bert Banyai. There's the distance. Launches a flash attack. Glazkov picks up the blade, but Banyai just forces his way through. Drops down into little crouch there. Huge beat on Glazkov's blade and up with the hit. He just stepped in to distance. And Glazkov says that will be enough of that. But fantastic there from Jean-Bert Banyai. 10-5 run against Nikita Glazkov.
Well, fenced well as a junior, 2 junior world medals, silver and a bronze. And Jean-Bert Banyai, I'll say he's got the Hungarians back into this, but he's given them a glimmer of hope.
Well, it is scant recompense, but Banyai finishes on a level indicator. Glazkov, interestingly, finishes on a -8 because there was that run that Redley had in the 6th. No, I'm looking at the wrong score, aren't I?
Yeah, Glazkov was 8-6 against Redley in the 6th.
So Glazkov ends on a level indicator. Closing the distance, stepping in on Kodos and picking him off.
Sonfai needs to press.
Nice. Lovely.
Flexibility in the shoulder there.
I hope we get the replay on this. We will. Sonfai just he worked his way in, and we couldn't see that. He worked his way into distance. Kodos launched a flash attack, and Sonfai just perfectly picks up the blade and then steps in to get the hit.
We've gone from youth to experience on the Hungarian team. Sonfai, 37 years old.
Double.
Won a couple of Grand Prix bronzes in his career as Sanfai. Back in 2009, both of them came. 40's the target.
Koto's just luring Sanfai in there. Very nice. Very nice from Peter Sanfai.
Sergei Kotos didn't do great in the individual competition here, only 51st place, but he did win a bronze medal in Tbilisi at the European Championships.
Correct.
He's 31 years old.
Sanfai works his way in, and again, this is the second time as Kotos tries to launch that flesh attack. He's right in there to block him out and to flick onto the shoulder.
Well, they're clawing their way back in, but at 39-33, is this a case of too little, too late?
No, I don't know. You know, it's a 6-point match. It's not a 12-point match anymore, or a 13.
Yeah, the worst they were at was when they were at 30-16. So they've come back from a 14-point deficit.
Well, a double there will end this, but an 8-5 run for the reserve Sanfai. I don't know. Can Redley do this?
It's a big, big ask.
It is.
They have come back, though. So they ended the sixth at 30-16, so that was a 14-point deficit. And they have basically halved that.
They've clawed it back. And, I mean, at least Hungary is in a position where they can actually see the finish line, instead of it being over the hill. And I don't expect Andres Redley
Well, the problem that they've got
to
is that
sit back and take it. I think he's going to...
Well, Sukov's an aggressive fencer, and the problem that they've got is that Sukov only needs to score 5, and then it's over. Redley with the reach advantage over Sukov.
Sukov waiting for that.
Yeah, and that's what will happen. Redley needs to take his time and make sure that he can just get a single light on.
Lovely. And no hit given there.
It was Redley that had passed.
Well, he did a good job picking up the blade, but couldn't get the hit before he had gone past. And it is Sukov. He's getting the hits here. That was nice from Redley. It came in very high, and I would surmise with the intention of dropping down, but Sukov took his blade and lifted it.
Well, 2 points away now for the Russians. And that's one of them.
Redley.
Really furious with himself there.
Sukov in this leg has done a very good job of controlling not only distance but Redley's blade, and you know, Hungary has to press. Sukov knows it. It's never an enviable position to be in, but in that position you have no choice.
So one more needed for the Russian team to claim the bronze medal. And there it is.
Yeah. All he had to do was
there it is.
Stand back and wait for it to come, and it did. You know, Sampai and Banyai did a good job for Hungary in the 7th and the 8th to at least give Hungary a little bit of a, you know, single-digit look in, but it was Russia all the way. They go home with the bronze, and you know, it could have been worse for Hungary, and they go home in 4th place, start to rebuild, and they'll be fine.
Well, you think about how Hungary were able to fence in the last third. The question is, why didn't they fence like that in the first third and the second third?
Well, I don't know. You know, you go back to the circumstances under which both teams came in. The Russians fought a very strong French team. They had moments of success and brilliance in that match, but they lost to France, and I don't think that they were realistically thinking that they were a hot prospect to win that semifinal. Hungary goes in against Switzerland, and they go in to the 9th and final leg up by 6, and then they get Heinzered. Max Heinzer did, you know, he did a complete mental job on them, and I mean mental in every sense of the word. 43 points scored between Heinzer and Redley, and you could see the anger, and you could see the frustration, and all of that going through Andras Redley, and they were really, really, really angry after that match. There were a lot of histrionics. There were a lot of, you know, acrobatics. There was circus. There was theater, and I think it really affected them. And then they came in with very little break, probably 10 to 12 minutes break between the end of the semifinal and the beginning of this, and had to pick themselves back up, refocus, get their heads back on straight. And if you look at legs 7, 8, and 9 and compare them to legs 1, 2, and 3, you can see it took them until, really looking at that, until the 5th leg to even begin to show some sign of life. But you know, both teams, Russia and Hungary, and in every third place match, both teams come in